Imagine a billionaire who can afford any watch ever made, yet chooses a basic, affordable timepiece that most people wouldn't even look twice at. And yet, that single decision speaks louder than any luxury brand ever could. So, stick around with us because in this video, we'll discuss what the Gates effect is and can modest watches become the new status symbol. Sometimes the biggest cultural revolutions don't start with protests or speeches, but with quiet personal choices. First of all, the Gates effect is not a trend, a slogan, or a marketing invention. It's a cultural shift unfolding quietly in real time, shaped by one of the most influential individuals of the modern age, Bill Gates. For generations, society believed success had to be visible, wealth had to shine, power had to be worn. From gold Rolex day dates on Wall Street to diamond-studded watches in Hollywood, luxury timepieces became shorthand for achievement and authority. A watch wasn't just an accessory, it was a statement of dominance. But Bill Gates disrupted that logic without ever making a speech or launching a movement. He simply showed up again and again wearing simple, functional watches, often Casio models worth less than a dinner at a high-end restaurant. While others around him flaunted six-figure timepieces, Gates quietly wore something built for reliability, not admiration. Over time, this contradiction became impossible to ignore. It was a man worth tens of billions, shaping the future of technology and global health, choosing function over flash. That single choice began to reshape cultural perceptions of wealth. The Gates effect was born the moment people realized that real success doesn't need to announce itself, and that maybe the loudest symbols of wealth were no longer impressive at all. To understand why this shift carried so much weight, we have to look at who Bill Gates really is and why his decisions matter. When someone who helped shape the modern world ignores luxury, it forces the world to pay attention. Bill Gates is not merely rich, he's historically significant. He helped build the personal computer revolution, redefine global philanthropy through the Gates Foundation, and continues to influence public health, education, and climate policy. When someone of that magnitude consistently wears a modest watch, the message carries enormous weight. Gates has been photographed at international summits, charity events, and high-level meetings wearing watches that cost less than a luxury dinner, often a Casio Duro or similar quartz model. Meanwhile, those around him wear Rolexes, Patek Philippe's, or Richard Mille's, worth more than luxury cars. The contrast is striking. Gates' choice dismantles the assumption that wealth must be displayed to be real. Instead of signaling power through price or exclusivity, he signals it through indifference. That indifference becomes a form of authority. It says he doesn't need to impress, doesn't need validation, and doesn't need to perform successfully for anyone. In a world obsessed with image, that quiet confidence becomes the most powerful statement of all. Gates didn't just challenge luxury, he shaped a broader transformation already underway in how power is expressed. For most of history, wealth screamed for attention, but modern power has learned how to whisper. For decades, wealth followed a simple rule: the louder the better. Big watches, bold designs, heavy gold cases, and instantly recognizable brands were tools of social dominance. They told the world who'd arrived and who had not, but the modern world has rewritten those rules. Today's most influential people often operate behind the scenes, coding software, running hedge funds, building startups, or managing global systems. Their power is invisible, and so is their style. Tech founders like Mark Zuckerberg, venture capitalists in Silicon Valley, and even political leaders increasingly choose understated clothing and modest accessories. Jeff Bezos has been seen wearing simple watches. Elon Musk has worn everything from basic tags to no watch at all. In this new environment, loud luxury feels outdated, even insecure. Silent power has replaced visible dominance. The Gates effect thrives in this world, where restraint signals control and simplicity suggests intelligence. A modest watch becomes a declaration of confidence, not a lack of ambition. As silent power replaced flashy dominance, people began interpreting modest choices in a completely new way. Here's where psychology flips the script on everything we thought we knew about status. A fascinating psychological shift has taken place. When someone wears an expensive watch, observers often assume they want attention. But when someone successful wears a simple watch, curiosity replaces judgment. People begin to ask different questions. Why so minimal? Why so practical? What does this person know that others don't? This effect can be seen in figures like Warren Buffett, who famously wore the same Rolex for decades, or Barack Obama, who often wore affordable watches like the York Grey 6500 100 during his presidency. These choices weren't about money, they were about mindset. The modest watch became a symbol of focus, discipline, and clarity. It suggested that the wearer valued time itself more than how time was displayed. In professional circles, this subtle signal carries immense weight. It communicates seriousness, self-control, and intellectual confidence. The Gates effect transformed modesty from a weakness into a form of power. And if you think this is just about watches, you're missing the bigger picture. Stick with us, because the next part explains why modest choices now signal more power than money ever did. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more amazing content on your watch list. This psychological shift didn't stay personal, it began reshaping entire industries and cultural trends. As society grew louder and more performative, luxury quietly moved in the opposite direction. As culture evolves, so do its symbols. Social media once glorified extravagant lifestyles, supercars, private jets, and diamond-encrusted everything. But over time, audiences grew tired of the performance. Quiet luxury, subtle, refined, and deeply intentional, began to take its place. This shift can be seen across fashion, architecture, and design. In watches, it appears in the growing respect for brands like Nomos, Grand Seiko, and minimalist independence that focus on craftsmanship rather than hype. Even traditional luxury giants have adapted, toning down logos and emphasizing heritage instead of price. The Gates effect aligns perfectly with this movement. Modest watches don't demand attention. They don't beg for admiration. They simply exist to do their job well. And in a world oversaturated with noise, that restraint feels refreshing and increasingly luxurious. Nowhere is this evolution more visible than in the values of younger generations redefining success. To younger generations, flashy wealth doesn't look successful, it looks strange. Millennials and Gen Z came of age during financial instability, social media illusions, and influencer culture collapses. They watch people fake wealth, rent lifestyles, and eventually burn out. As a result, they developed a deep skepticism toward flashy success. For them, luxury isn't about cost, it's about intention. A modest watch represents independence from marketing pressure and freedom from comparison. It reflects a mindset that values experience over ownership and meaning over materialism. This is why smartwatches dominate global sales, why vintage Casios are trending, and why minimal design continues to outperform excess. The Gates effect resonates because it aligns with how younger generations define success, not by what you show, but by how you live. As consumer values change, even the most established luxury brands are being pushed to respond. When consumer values shift, even centuries-old luxury empires are forced to evolve or fall behind. The traditional watch industry feels the shift. Brands built on exclusivity and opulence now face consumers who care more about story, craftsmanship, and values than price tags. As a result, the industry is evolving. Designs are becoming cleaner. Marketing focuses on heritage, engineering, and authenticity rather than status. Even ultra-luxury brands are reframing their narratives to emphasize timelessness over wealth. The Gates effect hasn't killed luxury, it's refined it. The brands that survive will be those that understand subtlety, restraint, and emotional connection rather than excess and display. There is a powerful psychological principle at work here. When wealth is displayed openly, it invites comparison and judgment, but when it's concealed, it creates intrigue. The absence of display forces others to rethink their assumptions. This shift gives control to the wearer. They're no longer defined by what they own, but by how they carry themselves. The Gates effect taps directly into this psychology. It transforms simplicity into authority and restraint into dominance. In an age of constant noise, silence becomes a form of strength, and modesty becomes a signal of confidence. So, the real question isn't if modest watches signal status, but whether they already define it. All signs suggest they already have. In boardrooms, tech campuses, startup hubs, and creative industries, modest watches are increasingly common. Not because people lack money, but because they no longer need to prove they have it. Status today is measured by freedom, impact, and autonomy. Time has become more valuable than gold. Focus is more valuable than flash. The modest watch symbolizes this shift perfectly. It represents clarity, confidence, and control. It tells the world quietly but firmly, I know who I am and I don't need to show you. And if this shift is already happening, its long-term impact may be far greater than fashion alone. The Gates effect is not about imitation, it's about understanding a deeper philosophy. It represents a new definition of success, one rooted in purpose rather than performance. A world where luxury is quiet, confidence is internal, and value comes from impact, not appearance. As society continues to evolve, this mindset will only grow stronger. The world is learning that true power doesn't sparkle, doesn't shout, and doesn't seek approval. It simply exists. And in that quiet confidence, the modest watch has secured its place as the ultimate symbol of modern success. And that's it. True status today isn't loud and doesn't beg for attention. The Gates effect reminds us that power has evolved from being seen to being understood. So the next time you check the time, ask yourself this: are you wearing a symbol for others or a tool for yourself? If this perspective changed the way you think about watches, success, or status, let us know in the comments down below. And if this Gates effect changed your narrative, then stay with us because our next video is about a famous Hollywood star, Mark Wahlberg. Trust me, you don't want to miss this one.